everyone. My name is Samalid Hogan. I'm with the Massachusetts Small Business Development Center, and it's my pleasure to welcome to today's webinar, No Mask, No Business. Today, we're going to cover the topics of establishing your safety policies for your business, as well as how to communicate those safety policies to your employees and your customers. We will also talk about how to deal with customers or employees who are not following those policies. And our guest speaker today is Linda Tumbarello, and our next presenter, Anita Eliason, who's the Senior Business Advisor with the Small Business Development Center, will be introducing her shortly. In the meantime, I do want to advise you that we will have this webinar recorded today. It is also streaming on Facebook. Here's the contact information for the folks here in Western Mass, who you can reach out for more assistance with your business, whether it's something related to COVID-19 or if it's something separate about your business. Here's the list of the Western Mass Small Business Development offices located throughout the state of Massachusetts. You can contact the office nearest to you and set up a free appointment with a business advisor. I'm going to go back to the first slide and acknowledge that this webinar is being co-hosted by many other organizations who are partners with us, including SCORE, the Center for Women Enterprise, Maslows Capital Corporation, Valley Community Development, Common Capital, Franklin County CDC, and of course, all of the MSBDC offices throughout the state, including Salem State and Clark University. And we couldn't bring this program into you without the support and funding from the Small Business Administration, the state of Massachusetts. Our office is hosted by the UMass Eisenberg School of Management, and we're accredited by America's SBDC. So thank you again for joining us today. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Anita Eliason, Senior Business Advisor at the Small Business Development Center Western Office, and she will start her presentation for today.
Anyway, thank you so much. So this is just to give us an idea of where we were. The red position we were in was to stay at home. Phase one was the start. That was the yellow phase. And we moved into the cautious phase, which is phase two. We're actually in the second part of phase two. And these phases are meant to have about 3 weeks between them so that they can monitor 5 health kind of indicators to see whether or not we can move on. So just wanted to present that. And through all phases of this, even as we go to the new normal, people are expected to cover their face, wash their hands, socially distance, be vigilant for symptoms, and stay at home if they feel sick. What's unique about Massachusetts is that it's really being presented as a collaborative effort to get us to reopen safely. And this is really an interesting slide. This is right off mass.gov because it really does show that the individuals do have responsibilities in this. It's not just on the employers kind of to lay out the rules. The individuals have responsibilities. And I draw your attention to employers since probably most of you are business owners. But your responsibility is to set the practices that adhere to the mandatory safety standards and even your sector-specific standards. And what I want to point out relative to the employees is their only job is to follow your lead. So that makes it extremely important that as business owners, you roll out your reopen properly because the employees are just doing what you're telling them to do basically. And as owners, we're doing what the state is mandating through their safety standards. The health system, of course, is participating by keeping the metrics and the government is setting the standards. So this just kind of gives us an idea. There are many people I've sent this to and they're actually posting it in their places just so that people can see that yes, we're asking the individuals to step up as well. There are basically 3 documents that should be posted in every single business. And this first one is showing that you are complying with all of the restrictions that are put in place for the state of Massachusetts. And this should be signed by the owner or manager. There is another document that should be, this is not a signed document, but it needs to be posted where people from the outside are coming in. And this includes vendors, the postman, UPS, FedEx, all the people that are coming in. It explains what your protocols are for them entering the building. So this is for people from the outside coming in. And the third one is actually rules to keep people safe at work. And it's basically making recommendations to the employees as to what they need to do to keep safe. And so we've got those 3 documents all together that's explaining to the public what you're doing, explaining internally what you're doing, and then making that statement that, yes, we are complying. Just so you have an idea, these are the businesses that are open now in Massachusetts. Just want to give you, we can send this out just so you have that. And these are the businesses that are not yet open, which would be phase 3 and phase 4 businesses. This is as of yesterday. And bars have been also sent down to phase 4. They had been phase 3 before, just to give you an idea when this is coming down the road, but it looks like it's going to be probably at least 3 weeks away. When you're communicating internally with your employees and externally with your customers, you want to think about who's your audience, the type of business you are, and what's your culture, what's your vibe, because different businesses are going to communicate the rules very, very differently. And we want to keep in mind that the goal of our communication is we want somebody to do something. That's why we're communicating. We want to make sure we're giving them information as to how this is going to be achieved, and we want to overcome objections. And we always want to be thinking that the goal of our communication is to protect the other person's ego. It's not about blame, it's not about fault, it's always protecting the other person's ego when we're trying to bring things to their attention, be that an employee or a customer. So I just want to go through quickly of some examples. These are rules and requirements. This is kind of a hard-hitting, maybe it's manufacturing, something in industrial space, perhaps it's even a government location. And this is these are the rules, right? These are the requirements, these are the rules. This is another one, keep your distance, stop. It's not necessarily all that friendly. And so that's what we want you to think about. What type of a business do you own? Because the other way to go about it is to get signage and to utilize floor mats that are more, please wait here, are just a little bit softer in their approach. If you're a recreational business like a restaurant or retail, we have to realize that people have choices. They've been in the house a long time. They're happy to go out. So going to a place that has stop signs and, rules and regulations may kind of kill the vibe of why it is they wanted to go out in the first place. So we ask you to really think about that. Dr. Fauci, a lot of people are using these signs. They've now been changed is to wash your hands, stay 6 feet away, and, the restaurants are all open now. So these are just some of the funny things. This is a softer approach as well, more of a friendly reminder. So you're making suggestions. This is a great example of a social distancing. I saw this the other day in a restaurant, actually it was in Rhode Island. And I thought that was a great way to handle it. This is Rutland, Vermont, decided that they were going to be a little more playful about it. And they've adopted this cow language. So if you're not far enough away, they'll say, you're just a calf away. It has to be an adult cow, and you'll see some other ones. But these are just examples of how people are communicating to the public. McDonald's is going to start putting these into their shops as they reopen. So they've kind of separated the golden arches to show the distance. And Volkswagen is doing the same in their showrooms. So again, thanks for keeping your social distance, not trying to be so hard-hitting. This is a park in Brooklyn that did a really great job of showing people where to be, and you can see everybody's compliant, which is great. And this is the billboard at Times Square right now, where Coca-Cola has just basically separated the letters of their logo to really reflect the fact that staying apart is the best way to stay united. And this is a Burger King thing that's being done with the crowns that sort of are a little bit fun and playful to show that we need to stay apart 6 feet. This is a great restaurant in Amsterdam, and this has been so popular. They're now going to add more of these, and this is going to be their new dining facility because everybody loved it. And this is what they've adopted in Australia. They decided, again, this is sort of a nationwide thing, and you can see a lot of this on social media. So they're just another way to remind people to follow the rules. And this is the reopening of a museum. So those are some ways we can think about how we want to communicate to our customers. And we asked Linda Tumbarello to come on board because she's a licensed psychotherapist and a mental health practitioner who can help people deal with emotional issues and trauma. And so she's brought her expertise to helping businesses recover and rebuild by great communication, both with their employees and with their customers. So Linda, I'll turn it over to you.
Linda, go ahead and turn on your camera. You have to click on that button that has the red line crossing it. Perfect. There you go.
Here I am. Hi, thank you both. So I really wanted to do this workshop, and I want to tell you why, because I think that it's really important to acknowledge what we're all dealing with, at this time, and, just the immensity of it. This is like never in our own lifetime have we had to deal with anything like this, and really never in human history. There have been plagues, but we weren't bombarded with the information about what's happening in every part of the world. Maybe we just had to deal with our village, our family, our community. And so I think we're just overwhelmed with information, and everything keeps changing. And sometimes I feel like my head is like a little punching bag. It go back and forth. I don't know if any of you others feel like that, but it's just so much uncertainty, so much transitions. And in general, transitions are very difficult for people, whether they're positive ones, like maybe moving to a place you want, or more difficult ones. But acknowledging that everyone is struggling right now in some way, and that's your employees, yourself, your customers. Everything's more difficult to do. And I want to just kind of put that out as a sort of a basic thing. And specifically, that also the fact that we can't touch people or see each other's faces. And for example, like there was research done a while ago about customer satisfaction. I think it was in a library. And so the clerk was advised to, as she handed the card back to the person, the library card, to slightly touch their hand. And then when people were asked afterwards, like which clerks were, what was their experience being there, almost unanimously, the people who had the slight touch said, oh yeah, they were really friendly. It was nice. I like being there. And so, and then there may be other casual ways that we support our customer, or somebody you haven't seen in a long time, an old customer, you might shake their hand. So none of these things are happening. And we're like herd animals. We're used to touch, to being near each other. So just acknowledging that's really important. And now there's this part. And even though it's been a couple of months for some of us, it's still not used to it. Basically, even young infants, when shown two big pictures of faces or two faces of people, an angry face and a happy face, smiling face towards, we'll turn towards that. So from we're very young, we're taught to look at faces for cues about how we're doing, what people think of us. And, you know, masks are often associated, as you know, with bandits or maybe the dentist you might be afraid of, or maybe not, but it's very different. So I'm going to take this off now, but I just wanted just to put that out there for now. So some of the things that we're dealing with today, like there've always been in any business, maybe difficult customers or employees that were harder to deal with, but now it's all amped up because everybody has some kind of level of stress. But as business owners or employees, I'm sure you all have skillful ways to deal with customers and employees. So today I just want to give you a couple of tune-ups, find ideas about how to deal with this now. I want to give you a little toolkit to take with you. And one of the toolkits have to do with just a simple way of couple of things to think of. I've got two different ideas that are what hopefully help you. So one would be, if we think about, I'm going to actually start with the customer part first, and then we'll talk about the employees. So, and in a little bit, I'm going to do a role play with Anita. So one idea I have is I call it GPS, because we're all navigating our experiences right now, what to do. So we're going to role play what to do when a customer doesn't wear a mask. So let me tell you what I'm using GPS. So GPS is sort of go, that's the beginning. You start, you know, somebody walks into your business, that's the go. The employee or yourself greets that person. And the pause is the place where, so the go is towards the person. The pause is you stop, you check in with yourself, and maybe you kind of regroup. Somebody's giving you a hard time, so you just sort of regroup, or you take a breath and do that very easily. And I'm going to give you a number more pause things later on in the seminar. And then the S is a script or a saying, something you say to yourself that helps you to go back to the customer. So an example would be, and something that you could easily remember. You're going to get a handout from this that will have some specific scripts, but think of it more like a saying. Like, for example, when I was very young, I got a job in a social service agency, huge place, and after being there a few days, suddenly the office manager had to leave, and I was a new employee, didn't have anything to do yet, so they threw me in and said, you have to replace the office manager for now. And like, I barely knew where the bathroom was. So somebody advised me, every time somebody asks you anything on the phone or in person, just say, well, thank you. I'm going to check that out and I'll get back to you. And so I just kept saying that to myself, and that was fine. I was pleasant to people, and they got it. So that's kind of a saying. Or if you imagine having a difficult person in your life that's always asking you to do something that, you know, beyond what they could need to be asking you, and you say, oh, I need to check that out. I need to look at my book. I need to look at my phone. I'll get back to you. That's a kind of a way you could use a script or a saying, or specific ways of saying things. So Anita, I would like to do the first role play where you're the customer and I'm the employee. And I'm going to put my mask on. And let me say, while we're getting this set up, I'm going to do this in a certain way here. So when I'm looking at Anita, who I don't see yet, hopefully I'll see her soon, I'm going to look in this direction. I'm talking to her. When I turn to you, and if I can quickly take off my mask, I will. This is the pause. This is what I'm saying to myself, getting ready to go back to talk to her. So, but I want you to have the sense of, like, I can be feeling things that are difficult, but I can kind of regroup and remember, oh, the next thing I need to say, or how difficult it is. So hear that what I'm saying, but maybe what I'm saying inside could be very different.
You
So,
will see Anita when she starts speaking.
I don't see Anita. Anita?
Anita, go ahead and speak up.
Hello.
Okay, there you are. So we're going to role play it first. Anita coming in the store, and she's not going to have a mask on. Hi, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I notice you don't have a mask on. I have one right here. Would you like that?
No, I hate masks. I just do. I just find them so confining.
Well, let me say, I don't know anyone who does. We all dislike them, but it's what we need to do here. So would you like a mask?
Well, I come from one of the states and we don't have to wear a mask. So do I really have to wear a mask? I'm not going to be here that long.
Okay, so now I'm talking to the audience here. So I'm starting to get, this is going to be a hard one. And I just sort of take a breath, and I'm going to remember the next thing I can say. I can come back, and I can also just acknowledge what she said and then make a request. So yeah, I know that it's very tricky because states are different, but here in Massachusetts, it's required to wear a mask. And my job is to inform people to do that. And I'm wondering if you'd be willing. Would you be willing to wear this mask?
If I have to, that's fine. Okay, yeah, I'll wear a mask. Sure. Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna pause this for a moment here. And so I just am wondering things that people may have noticed and that apply both to working with employees and to customers. So one of the things that I did, 1 second here, is that I acknowledged that I heard her. Said she didn't like it. And then I say what I needed her to do that. And then I made a request. Would you be willing? Could you please? So that could be a script in itself at some point. Would you be willing? Could you please? Let's try this one more time and be a little more difficult. Anita, can you be a little more difficult?
Yeah, and I see that someone in the chat was saying that sometimes people aren't as easy to convince as I was. So okay, let's take it up a notch.
Again, I'm going to go, when I come this way, I'm going to speak to the audience. Not every time, but when I do, I will. So welcome to our store. I noticed you're not wearing a mask. Could you please wear a mask? I have one right here.
Oh, I hate wearing a mask. I just hate it. My glasses fog up. I hate it. They're hot. I just hate it. You know?
Yeah. Basically, everybody hates it, especially when you have to wear it for 8 hours a day. It's hard, but you know, that's the rules here. That so I'm wondering if you could put on your mask.
I mean, where I come from, we don't even have to wear masks. So I'm not even used to wearing a mask. I'm only going to be here a short while. I just have to buy a gift. Do I really have to wear a mask just to be here for, 10 minutes or so?
Well, we wear the mask to protect all of us. So my mask protects you, and my mask protects all the other employees, and their masks protect all of us. That's what we do. So what do you think?
Well, it's so funny because I see people on television, a lot of our politicians, none of them wear masks. So is that really true that, I don't know, are masks a thing? Where we come from, we're traveling and we're not wearing masks. We have never worn masks and we're all fine.
Okay, so I'm talking to the audience here. So I'm starting to feel like, uh-oh. So I know I'm trying to decide right now in my pause, and do I need to get my boss, the owner, because he promised me that if somebody got really difficult, I could say, just hold on a second and get my boss. But I'm going to try it one more time. So I hear how much you really don't like wearing a mask and how it's very confusing. I have to say it's very confusing because the rules are so different. It's a political issue. It's not like standard everywhere. So, even in Northampton here, where I live, there's masks you're supposed to wear them to just walk on the streets in downtown.
Wow. Whoa.
So and that is, this is to help all of us stop the spread of this terrible virus. Would you be willing to wear a mask?
If I have to, but, I really wish you had that posted on the door because, I probably wouldn't have stopped actually. So maybe you should let other people know before they even come in that you're going to make them wear a mask so they could decide whether or not they want to shop here.
I thought we did have a sign, but so we have lovely gifts. Would you please wear a mask and so you could see them? We can get you a lovely gift quickly.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Okay. So I don't know if this may be a time, I don't know if people do have a couple of questions.
Yes, we do have a question.
Okay.
Amy asks, what if someone is wearing a mask but not covering properly? And Amy, if you don't mind unmuting yourself and just clarifying, what do you mean by not covering properly?
What I'm saying is, sometimes the mask isn't tight, or it's maybe not over their nose, or, it's just kind of a makeshift kind of thing that doesn't look like it's really covering, or, there's all different kinds of masks out there.
Okay. Yeah. So in doing this, I think one of the things I was saying in terms of acknowledging, thank you for having a mask with you. I wonder if you could please wear it to cover your nose and mouth. So that would be, or to to say, look at my mask. It covers my nose and mouth. So, or, I don't know if every place can offer some masks for people in that situation, and just say, would you like to use my mask? It's a good question, and but I think the more you can thank people, for even having the mask, acknowledging, or even just saying, it's so uncomfortable to put it up over your nose and mouth, and this is how we protect all of us. This is how we do our part. Would you be willing? So it's a kind of a three-phase thing here,
And Linda, I know we didn't cover this yet, and I think Anita may have mentioned in her presentation earlier that there are certain folks that are exempted from wearing a mask due to a medical condition. So if one of those customers come to your store, Anita or Linda, what do you suggest?
I could say something about it. Yeah, I think it's important, and I'm going to talk more about employers. It's important if that's true to state that to people and to just say, there are some people who are allowed not to wear a mask for qualified reasons. Maybe the person might not want to you to say they have a medical condition. You can check out. I think it'd be important to check with your employees if there are some like that. Is it okay to say that, or just to say something like a qualified reason, or that could also be on signage as
Right.
well.
And what if someone is not agreeing to wear a mask even after you have politely and eloquently asked them to do so? How do you ask them to leave?
Well, first, I mean, first, again, this would be something to work out with the employer. First, I would, if they agree, then I would say something like, oh, well, maybe you would prefer to speak to the owner. Could you please wait here a moment? And I could go get the owner. I could have a signal. We could have a signal somehow when things are getting bad or hard. So that would be one option. And the, you know, I think it is important that if someone has to ask somebody to leave, that maybe they have a little backup, or they, you know, I think that wonderful slide that Anita showed that sort of said everybody's responsibility, that might be a great, you know, just cheap copy of that. Might, you know, have some copies of that and just maybe hand them to the person and say, I'm sorry that you don't want to come in here, but look at that. But I'm, you know, I mean, obviously at this time, people don't want to lose their customers and patrons. So
Right.
I would maybe start with, we do all of these steps and then start with seeing if there a manager or the owner could come, you know, and maybe have a piece of paper like that. Sometimes people see something like that'd be a wonderful little print thing to hand to somebody.
Right. Another suggestion I may make is that for those businesses who are able to do so, curbside delivery, so if somebody, or curbside pickup, it kind of avoids that whole situation altogether for the folks who can't wear a mask or are not able to wear a mask. If you offer it in your store, then you're giving them options. Obviously, this is not, you know, for everyone, especially depending on the number of staff that you have at the store. And but it is another option to offer that curbside pickup as a way of helping those folks who aren't not able to wear masks and can't come in, or just want to avoid that whole conflict altogether. Just as another option. But so for the folks who are go ahead.
Yeah, so I wanted to just say a little bit more specifically about employees and employers. This is okay. So one of the things that really, I think Anita said it also, is that the employer sets the tone and somehow can let the staff know that their safety is their priority. And I wanted, before I did this talk, Joanne Locke from 141 Main Street talked to me, let me interview her, and two of her managing help, Rachel and Cameron. And so one of the things that, first I talked to her employees, and they were saying, I said, so what helped you be able to deal with these protocols right now? What helped you? What's helping you? And you know, one of the things that they said is, and that Joanne also said, is that there were meetings, and maybe not, you know, with team meetings, and that their opinions were asked, you know, and they made together a checklist, which is recommended for places, but it's not required. But so one of the employees said, well, yeah, with the checklist, you know, we can see who's doing what. So if you know, Susie's not doing her job every hour, it's not initial, then we can find that out. So that, you know, employees don't have to feel resentful. And yes, and I think Joanne also, just really by meeting with people and asking employees, what are their concerns? Not only saying this is what you have to do, but what are your concerns? Yeah. So I was going to do one more quick role play with
Right, we have a
Anita.
few questions in here if you want me to ask those.
Okay, well, I think I'd like to just do the quick role play with Anita and come back to them, and then we'll have more time for questions.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Just to let you know, there's about, yeah, just 4 questions on the chat right now, but I will ask them after the role playing. Go ahead.
Okay.
You guys can get started.
Okay, so I still don't see Anita yet. So Anita, you can start talking.
I'm here.
Hi. So hi. So I'm going to be the owner, and I just so thanks Anita for coming and talking. I just have noticed. I just want to speak to you. I've noticed that a lot of times that you're not wearing your mask, or sometimes your role requirements on that checklist aren't being checked out. And I'm just wondering, you know, what's happening with you, and what can I do? What can we do to help you with that? So to make sure this happens, because this is what's got to happen.
Yeah. I just hate wearing the mask. So when I go and take a break, I take it off, and then I come back and I never remember to put it on because I hate wearing it. And yeah, I just hate wearing it.
Yeah, it's hard to breathe, and you know, there's no doubt about that. But I really need you to do that. You know, my job here is to protect all of us, everybody who works here and everybody who walks in here. And I really need you to be on board with that. You know, would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, I'll just, so what if you just remind me if I don't have it on? Because I'm sort of in the habit of taking it off and then I never put it back on again. So, you know, you want to remind me, then I'll just put it back on.
Well, I'm not always around to remind you. I'm wondering if there's something that could remind you, or maybe when you take it off, can you put it somewhere you remember on your wrist, or something that'll remind you, or something you can say to yourself, you know?
Well, you know, Joe, he doesn't wear his either. I mean, you know, it's not just me. So what if we like all reminded each other? Like, would that be an idea? Because I'm not the only one that doesn't wear their mask. So maybe we could come up with something where we all remind each other to do it. And I don't understand why Dan doesn't wear a mask, because he never has a mask on at all. So is he like exempt from having to wear a mask or something?
Well, first of all, I want to say it's a great idea about people reminding each other, and let's just keep bringing that up. And maybe we'll have a few minutes after the lunch rush, and we can just talk a little bit, and so that we can just bring that together, and I can say it again. And thank you for making that suggestion about, you know, let's remind each other. Let's find ways to remind each other, because.
But why doesn't Dan ever wear a mask?
What?
Why doesn't Dan ever wear a mask? Because he never has a mask on. He doesn't wear it when he comes in. He doesn't wear it at all.
Well, we should ask him to talk about, you know, he has some reasons that he can't wear that. So we'll bring that up. I think that would be good for people to hear. I'll talk to him too. So thank you.
Okay.
All right. So again, there's a similar thing of just so I think we're finished with this part, Anita. Thank you. And we're going to ask questions, and again, I'm just sort of repeating it. It's like I hear you acknowledging what they're saying, and then what has to happen. So it's very similar. I did not do this kind of pause bit because she was pretty responsive to me. So if there are questions now, this would be a good time to ask some questions.
Yes, we have a few questions here. Yes. So one of the folks on the webinar is asking, can you please give us some steps that we can use to de-escalate an angry conversation?
No.
Well, I would just actually honestly repeat what I said, and that's what I was trying to give an example. As it gets angry, okay, just think about this. The more you say you're having an argument with, you know, your spouse or your sibling or somebody. And once you start saying the word, if I start saying, let's say to my husband, you never listen to me, you always has got your face in that phone. He's not going to listen to me. He's going to stick the phone right in his face and hope I go away somewhere. But, if I say something like, I, so the more we can use the word I'm hoping to say, I hear you, or I say to him, I'm having a hard time today. I really need you to listen to me. Can we take a few minutes? So the more I use the word I, this is what I need. This is what this is what's happening in Massachusetts, rather than you need to put your mask on. So that always gets people, it makes them, gets their hackles up, So anything you can do in general, where you speak from yourself, what I need. Look, I'm the employee here. I really need this job. My job is to help is to ask people to put their mask on or whatever it might be. Would you be willing? Can you please? Does that help? Person who asked the question.
Yes, I think it does. And one of my favorite phrases, I'm going to give it away to the folks here, is I need you to meet me halfway on this. What do you need in order to do that, to be able to do that? And so I need you to meet me halfway on this. What do you need in order to do that? I think it's a really good way of doing that. Somebody just unmuted themselves there. But anyways, another question that we have on the chat here is social distancing. So any suggestions on talking to people about keeping their distance with one another and also using sanitizer?
Okay, so first I just want to acknowledge again about the social distancing that it does bring up stuff for us. We're saying somebody, move away, get away from me. Like I've had occasionally, been in a situation where I accidentally got closer and, some people might just say, oh, please move back. And others say, move away, and I get, oh, what did I do wrong? Or, so how you do it is important. And I think we have an instinctive reaction to when somebody says move away. We're not used to this. Again, this is all new. So again, I think I would do the same. I would just say, oh, I notice you're too close to me right now. I'm wondering if you could move back just a little bit, because I have nowhere to go right here. I've got the wall right here, so I can't go any further. So that would be one thing. That's why any kind of markings on the floor are really helpful, but you could be out somewhere. So, I think if you can also, make a joke sometimes, that's helpful. It's like, isn't this crazy, we'd be at a bar together, we'd be all next to each other or going dancing, but here we've got to keep this 6 feet. So again, would you do your part, or would you meet me halfway? I don't like this either. Again, the more you can speak from I hate this. I like to be close. I love to hug my friends, but this is what we need so we can all be safe and healthy, and so that we can be out in the world again, because nobody wants that lockdown again, that's for sure. So does that help answer your question there?
Yes, I think so. And there's another question here about how does an employer talk to employees? I know you addressed this a little earlier, but what if you haven't talked to your employees about it at all? You kind of just assume they knew the rules, and now you're going to have to go back and ask them to, follow the rules. How would you go about doing that?
Okay, well, here again is a great time to maybe print out what Anita had on that slide, and just show everybody like, oh, this just came back from mass.gov. It says, explains everything that we need to do. Isn't it great? We've got something here. So again, if you have something and it's like not only coming from you here, it's coming from the state. It's very stated clearly what your role as an employer is, what their role as an employee, all our roles. It says, it's the best thing I've seen so far. Great work, Anita. And so, or, you know, what I suggested, about the idea of a checklist that Joanne Locke had done at 141 Main, that, you know, let's create a checklist. You know, the protocols are coming down clear and hard, and we've got to do something. So I think the more you could say, we have to do something, be inclusive, invite people. We have to figure this out now. So, you know, and to maybe even own, like, I haven't talked to you as much as I could. You know, I'm stressed out. We're all stressed out. You know, I'm doing the best I can, and we're all doing the best we can. And so, but now this is what we need to do.
Right.
And you know, when you look at that 5-part level of responsibility of how we're going to get through this, it is so crystal clear that all an employee, again, has to do is follow what the employer is putting in place, which is following the mandates. And so you really don't want them using their own imagination as to what they think is appropriate. They need to follow the lead. And, you know, heaven forbid, if something did happen, the state would want to see that the checklist has been complied to. It's all on the mass.gov, and it does have to be adhered to. Along with that positioning statement, the welcome statement saying we are following all the guidelines regarding social distance, hygiene, disinfecting, and also masking. So
yes, Anita,
responsibility.
when you have a moment, and before you go though, I need to post a link to the resources on mass.gov. One of the folks on the webinar today is asking if there are any posters in Braille, available in Braille, or any resources for audio for the people who are hearing impaired or blind.
Oh,
and if we could find that and post it on the chat or follow up after this webinar with folks on that. But then before you go in and search for that, there's a question here. The governor has said that masks are to be worn in business everywhere. We have a person here in the webinar today who owns a fitness studio. Mm-hmm. And, you know, she sees that folks in restaurants, for example, they come in and as they're seated on their table, they're able to take the mask off. She's using that as a sort of like an example for the folks that come into her fitness studio. Once they come in with their mask, and once they're in a spot, you know, 6 feet apart or enough distance apart, she's allowing them to take their mask off. Is that acceptable? Have you seen anything in the industry specific information that you've reviewed so far, whether or not that will be allowable, or indoors they have to keep them? Because that's my first response, is to say indoors you are probably required to keep your mask on if you're very close to people, especially if you're, you know, breathing heavily. You know, outdoors probably not.
Right. We discussed that with Joanne. So a little bit of a parallel situation about when people are seated. She's got a 20 by 40 foot tent. What happens if they get up from their table to use the restroom and people are forgetting to then put their mask on? Now they're being reminded. So that's really great. But there are now some studies coming out about the fact that we're not supposed to be handling the masks as much as we are, because if you're in a situation and you have now contaminated the outside of the mask, to keep taking that off as you go from station to station in a gym setting, you know, now you're contaminating your hands, and now you're touching the equipment. But I've not seen anything specific, but there is an industry sector specific. If you go onto mass.gov and you put in gyms, it will take you right to exactly that category. So there are advanced directives for certain types of businesses, so there may be more information. And if we can have her email, we can also do some research to find out. And also regarding the person looking for things in Braille. And, you know, to people that have special accommodations, because some people are not wearing masks and they're saying, oh, you know, I'm special, you know, I have an accommodation, I can't wear a mask. And we thought a great way to kind of flush that person out, if it's being an excuse, is to say, if you have a medical condition, we're more than happy to clear the store. Because they're not going to, you know, realistically, someone's not going to want to draw that much attention to themselves. But let's say you had a retail store, to maybe have a chair outside of the door. And if someone comes in, will not wear a mask, says they don't have to, just to say, if you just be seated outside for 5 minutes, we will clear the store so that you can shop, you know, by yourself safely. And the idea is, if more people take that approach, people will not use that as an excuse, because it'll be embarrassing to have them clear the whole store for you. But that technically is what should be done if someone cannot wear a mask.
Okay, we have just a few minutes left. And I wanted to just bring in, I said something about the pause part. And this is the part of, so we talked about sort of talking to other people and then sort of checking in with yourself and things that you can do that are quick and easy for your, less stressed out we are, the easier it is to deal with things. And sometimes you just have a moment, and some easy things you can do, and you can try this if you want, is just like often when we get tense, our shoulders come up towards our ears, and that makes everything tight. It restricts our breathing. And also, we're also giving, you know, our body language is showing somebody we're really stressed out. And if we're trying to, you know, work with somebody who's difficult, the more relaxed looking we can be. So a simple thing you can do is just inhale and just bring up your shoulders, and then exhale and let it out. You can, if you can't breathe this, I'm making more noise with my breath than you'd have to. And this is a perfect, bring them up and slowly bring them down. This is a perfect thing to do as you're just, you know, walking from place to place, walking to your car, walking to a different place of your store or restaurant. You can do this, that's a very simple thing you can do. And that doesn't look like particularly anything. You can just exhale out. It's also kind of what you say to yourself, to keep yourself, not to keep yourself, because we're not going to keep being relaxed, but to sort of come back and regroup. What can I, you know, just to say, like, I'm doing the best I can, pat yourself on the shoulder. It's like, okay, you know, I can handle this, or, you know, to really think about just the quick breaks. I have in the handout you're going to get, and on my website, I have a resource page, and I have what I call 5-minute helpers. So you'll get some of those, and I have them in audio there. So you can check them out. They're all meant to be things that you can do anywhere. So, you know, you can sometimes just like I can bring my hands together. Sometimes we do things to sort of help us feel calmer. You'll see people doing things like that, or they'll just put their hand on their chest, or they'll massage their hand or massage their shoulder. Things that most people do not notice. But somehow, if you just put in your head, if you just think of a pause, I can take a pause, and whatever can be done in a place of employment where people can even get like mini breaks, you know, when somebody's really having a hard time. If that's, I know this is difficult, but even if you don't get a mini break, you can kind of give yourself a break. Or if you go to the bathroom, you could do a couple things. You could make a funny face in the mirror. But so I'm going to send you, well, you'll get some handouts with these and on my website. And then I want to also say that I got a grant from the city of Northampton, an emergency grant, to help me pivot my business because I was also doing hands-on work as well as psychotherapy. And I am offering in exchange for that free phone sessions for business owners, employees in Northampton, or very low cost for anywhere else, to just talk on the phone if you want to like brainstorm some of these things or get a coping strategy. I'm also willing to come and talk to staff, help out. This is what I'm offering, and it's free, and you can check it out on my website and sign up for any of that free help, lindatumbarello.com. And I want to thank you all for being here, and thank you for creating this webinar. So.
Yes, thank you, Linda. Appreciate it. That was great, ladies. Thank you, Anita, as well for the presentation earlier, as well as for the role playing. I know there's still some outstanding questions about, especially for the folks on the call who had the fitness center, and one of them is actually a yoga studio, so there's no heavy breathing and all of that, but we'll find out the specific information for your type of business. If you have any questions, right? If there's still questions out there about what things you need to comply with, remember you have folks here in the region in Western Mass and all over the state who can help you with those questions. There are emails on the screen that I'm showing about some of those folks right now that are here in Western Mass that can assist you with your questions. And there's also a listing here of all the MSBDC offices throughout the state. And you can reach out to any of those offices or the folks on the screen, and they'll be happy to assist you further. Now, I want to thank all of the sponsors, all of the partners that helped this webinar possible: the Center for Women Enterprise, SCORE, Mass Growth Capital Corporation, Franklin County CDC, Valley Community Development. Thank you all for your support in promoting these webinars. I want to thank our stakeholders and funders from the Small Business Administration, the state of Massachusetts. Our office is hosted by UMass Eisenberg School of Management, and we're accredited by America's SBDC. Thank you all for watching today's webinar. We hope you found it helpful, and have a great afternoon.